like these chairs.
Yeah, they're comfortable.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the ASUG News Studio. I'm Tom Weldon and delighted to have with me a couple of SAP mentors, SAP gurus, influencers. I know they love those terms.
Guru.
A couple of recognized SAP watchers who, if you don't follow John Reed and Dennis Howlett's exploits, then you really should. Guys, welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
This is a pretty nice set. I mean, Dennis and I have a really huge movie set over in the influencer area.
Yes,
but this is not bad.
This will work. This will work.
It's pretty nice.
Before I get into the question, I just want to mention these guys launched a brand new video site where they do interviews with a wide range of people, a lot of SAP folks, and it's jd-od.com. Check it out.
That's right. Thank you.
All right, guys, we had a very interesting keynotes this morning, very different from yesterday's.
Yeah.
Dennis, what did you take away from the keynotes
this morning?
Yes, from Vishal and then Hasso.
Well, I mean, they're clearly trying to get the audience to think into the future, right? Mm-hmm. Whether they're in a position to actually deliver is a little bit of a different matter. Mm-hmm. I mean, quite frankly, he went on a little bit too long. I just want 3 things to take away, not 13. Mm-hmm. And there was a touch of the old science class about it, but then that's Hasso Plattner, right? So you kind of expect that. But for me, the previous day when, there was no chest beating or very little chest beating, no dissing on the competition, but immediate concentration on customers was, to me, something very important. Everybody was, my guys were sort of turning around and saying, oh, there's no news here. I said, well, actually, the news is that customers matter, right? And I think that's important.
There was no chest thumping, but there was a lot of drum playing. I liked the band in the morning.
I'd never heard of them.
You never heard of them? Well, that's all
I've
right.
never heard of them.
You live in Spain.
Right.
John, what do you think about what we're hearing for cloud-based information coming out of here by design? Any thoughts on that?
Well, when we talk about customer presence, that's one of the things that really made a positive impact on me from the show, because there's a lot of by design customers and partners at the show. Sure. Last year, they were kind of like a rare species if you spotted them. There are a bunch of people kind of hovering around trying to get at them. Yeah. This year, there are enough of them that they could pretty much fill a room. Yeah. And that's kind of what we've been looking for SAP, because for the last couple of years, there's been this whole delivering on the vision thing, but the emphasis has been on the vision, not on the delivering, right? And so we're looking for stories of real productive use cases, and we're seeing that in by design right now. Obviously, with the asterisk, as the partner ecosystem that Dennis knows even more about than I do, has a long way to go, but we're hearing the customer and partner stories at least. So
right.
Yeah.
And the most important thing, I think, is that in the conversations that you and I have had, there's been no PR or analyst relations supervision, if you will. So they must be confident in what they're saying. We found that the customers have been pretty open and honest. Where it works, they tell us. Where it's not so good, they tell us, and that's okay. That's cool.
They actually left us alone, me alone with the customer.
Yeah, I know. That was dangerous.
in a little room, we had a.
They probably had security cameras on you guys.
They might have been monitoring us remotely.
Doesn't matter. I still got them on film.
Yeah.
The other big news, we've been hearing a lot more about Sybase.
Yep.
Dennis, what's your thoughts on mobility? Are you getting enough information?
Yeah.
Do you think we're heading in the right direction?
We went down to have a look at the mobility area that they've got down there. Absolutely packed with people. It was at the time the busiest part of the show, and it still, as we wandered past, seems pretty busy. Right. What impressed me was that there's a lot of really good simple applications that have that kind of Apple feel to them, right? And so my challenge to SAP at the moment is, when are you going to open this app store with, seed it with 100 applications, $2 to $5 a month, whatever it is, because that is a potentially enormous market that could swamp everything else that they've got at the moment, if you so choose. But they're still saying, well, we want to sell it on-prem, we want to sell it in the cloud. It's like, yeah, okay. I don't believe that. I don't believe that works.
One thing that really impressed me, based on past conferences, is they actually put us in the room, bloggers who know to be a bit feisty, with Sybase executives for the first time, really, where they really said, okay, let's make this happen. And admittedly, some of the interactions I thought were a little stiff because they were getting used to that format. And if you've never been in that kind of give and take, it's a little different. And but one thing that came out of that I was pleased to see is that there's a lot of emphasis on how they can really, gosh, I'm trying to think of a less wanky phrase than cross-pollinate, but there's something about taking the Sybase mobility initiatives, by design, all-in-one, B1, Business Suite. That's all been coordinated to a certain degree now, and to me, that's where SAP can play to its strengths. When you have disparate product teams working on different stuff, it starts to make you crazy. When they're all working towards how can they leverage all these platforms, then they're looking like a better company.
Right, so. Absolutely. We've also heard a lot about Hana. I mean, probably the most been hearing a lot about that. You get the sense looking at those customer testimonials today, look at the companies, the Fortune 100. I mean, these are big companies. Are you buying that Hana will be able to be, imbued in all the other products? There'll be a Hana for the rest of us, for the rest of SAP customers who are not the Colgate Palmolives of the world?
Well, okay, so they're talking HANA in Analytics and by design, right? They're talking about HANA in B1. It's only a matter of time before HANA is the platform of choice, if you will, for those solutions. The question that I had for Hasso Plattner this morning was, is it going to happen on the Business Suite? Because a year ago, or 2 years ago, he said it's never going to happen, right? 4 or 5 months ago, Vishal calls me up and says, hey, I'm super excited. I've got all-in-one running on HANA. I said, really? Okay, Business Suite next. And he laughed, right? Now they can envisage it. And if they can envisage that, then that provides them with the ability to think about transformational change. And the things that Hasso was talking about this morning suggest that that's likely to be the case. But, it's going to be difficult for them because they have this big thing with an R in front of it that's been hanging around for 20, 30 years, and they have to be able to engineer the way out of that one. So, I mean, you can talk a little bit more, I think, on that.
Well, yeah, it's also sort of the speed of change that I struggle with a little bit with SAP, because I actually buy into the vision, but I always feel like I have to get a gut check from the customers who are actually using stuff. And I met with some HANA customers, and I like the use cases they describe, but many of them are still in the proof of concept phase. Sure. And if you watch the keynotes today, I don't think you would really understand that, right? I mean, of course, SAP is trying to market their solutions, but the reality is that the HANA customers, at least that I've spoken to, are nowhere near what you would call a productive instance. But that's not to say they're not excited about the product and its possibilities, but it has to do with timing. And, like, for example, on the Twitter stream today, it kind of drove me a little crazy because, okay, Gateway is here was the thing on stage, right? And so everyone's tweeting, Gateway's here, as predict Gateway. I think I saw some analyst firm, as we predicted, Gateway, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I did a little research on the fly, which is Twitter's good for that too. And basically Gateway isn't here yet. It moves in ramp up in June, and then the real GA is a target for October. Now, having said that, Gateway is another great example of something that's going to really make a huge difference, I think, for development community across the board, because you're talking about pulling Business Suite data into RESTful services and such. So it's going to have a huge impact, but it's not here yet. So that's the real balancing act I have, is that I'm excited about the vision, but I feel like I'm just another kind of guy contributing to the noise if I get overly excited about stuff that's not real yet. So that's kind of what I struggle with.
But I think we should congratulate SAP, because in years past, you'd get these 3-year release cycles, would be late, they'd be buggy, they'd be what they were, and then customers would have to digest them. And we've ended up in a situation where, I mean, I'm sure you know from talking to members of ASUG, there's fatigue, right? With these styles of application, they have to deliver on a much faster release cycle. And so, from HANA's here, Gateway's here, but it's actually 3 months late. I can actually live with that, if I'm truthful. And I'm satisfied that that's okay, because measured against the past, that's pretty good performance.
Yeah, I can actually live with that as well. I think part of my critique was more to the noisy hype that a lot of people participate in around the Twitterization of events.
Yeah, but we don't do that, right?
No, not you guys.
Yeah.
I've never tweeted in my life. What are you talking about?
Really? Oh, okay.
Last question, and then I will let you two guys there. These guys are very busy here. What's the biggest threat to SAP now? Briefly. John, you want to start? Dennis?
Wow.
Go on, John. I'll let you go on that one.
Gosh, I think there's two things. Internal culture change. I think they're still struggling with that. So that's an internal threat. Which the new SAP or the old SAP, which wins out. On the external side, I think about the up-and-coming SaaS vendors. I think the things I hear about Workday and NetSuite and even Salesforce.com, I think those are things you have to pay attention to in this market.
Yep, great. Dennis?
Well, their internal addiction to 7- and 8-figure deals looms large when you're comparing it with a by-design style environment and mobile applications, right? if I'm getting $2 in this hand and 10 million in that hand, and I'm the salesman, what do you think I'm going to do, right? It's a no-brainer. But they have to understand that that model is different, and that model actually delivers much more than that model. So that's an internal problem in culture, is what he says. As to the external threats, NetSuite isn't a threat to them. They're vulnerable, okay? Salesforce isn't a threat to them on its own because it only handles a sliver of functionality. Workday is a genuine threat because Workday has strong alliances with Salesforce. It completes the basics of the ERP suite.
Sure.
It's fundamentally different, and it looks good, it operates well, and it scales massively.
Yep.
That is definitely a threat.
Yep.
And possibly vendors we haven't even heard of yet.
True. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for stopping by. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Up next, I'll be talking to Capgemini, so come back in about 10 minutes. Thanks, guys.
Was that right?